Before anything can be changed, it must be seen. Without awareness, we move through life unconsciously, reacting instead of choosing. It is like walking through a forest blindfolded. Each step becomes a matter of chance, not intention. To begin mastering the mind, you must first notice its movements. What does it say when you are silent? Where does it wander when no one is looking? Awareness is the first gate that opens the path toward transformation. When you are unaware, your thoughts control you. They push and pull like wind across an open field, and you, without anchor, drift. But the moment you see them, truly see them, you are no longer fully under their command. You take a step back and realize, this is not me, this is just a thought. That recognition alone creates space. In that space, power is born. A power not of domination, but of quiet clarity. The body trains with repetition. The mind trains with observation. If you want to change the way you think, do not start by forcing new thoughts. Start by becoming deeply intimate with the old ones. Sit with them, watch them, track their patterns. When do they rise? Why do they repeat? Only when you become a student of your own mind can you begin to guide it. You cannot direct what you do not understand. Many search for control through discipline, but without awareness, discipline becomes self-punishment. You can wake up early, eat clean, and train hard, but if the mind is full of chaos, even your discipline will serve confusion. True control is not suppression, it is harmony, and harmony only emerges when you observe long enough to notice the rhythm beneath the noise. The rhythm is always there, but only the still can hear it. Awareness is not judgment. It does not label your thoughts as good or bad. It simply sees, and in that seeing, a shift begins. You stop identifying with every emotion. You stop believing every fear. You stop feeding every craving. You start recognizing not everything that passes through the mind deserves attention. Some things are echoes, some are dust. Let them pass like clouds. There is no shortcut to awareness. It must be cultivated like breath. Simple, consistent, ever-returning. You return to it in moments of stress, in conflict, in silence. You return to it like a monk to a bell. Each time you remember to watch instead of react, you strengthen the part of you that is free. This is the part of you that chooses, and choice is the root of all power. Without awareness, knowledge becomes noise. You may read 1,000 books, but if you do not witness how your own thoughts behave, all that wisdom remains locked. The mind is not changed by information alone. It is changed by attention, by turning inward and holding the mirror up with honesty, patience, and stillness. This is how you become your own teacher. Every thought you think is a seed you plant in the soil of your mind. Whether that thought is filled with fear, peace, anger, or love, it carries within it the power to grow. What you feed grows stronger, and what you neglect withers. If you plant thoughts of strength over time, you will become resilient. If you plant thoughts of doubt, eventually, your actions will reflect hesitation. Just as a seed determines the kind of tree that grows, your thoughts determine. In the kind of life you build, the soil of your mind does not choose what to grow, it only responds to what is planted. If you carelessly scatter seeds of worry, comparison, or bitterness, do not be surprised when your inner world is covered in weeds. You may blame the weather or others around you, but the truth is that your harvest reflects your planting. The external world often mirrors the state of the internal world, and the internal world is first shaped by thought. You do not need to control every thought that passes through you, but you must be mindful of which ones you nurture. Not every thought is worthy of your attention. Some arise from old wounds, others from borrowed fears. You must ask, does this thought serve the direction I want to go, or is it pulling me into patterns that no longer belong to me? Right thinking is not about perfection. It is about clarity and alignment. A single thought if repeated, becomes a belief. And a belief, when held over time, becomes a foundation. That foundation then informs your decisions, your reactions, your relationships. So, when you repeat to yourself, "I am not enough," you are watering a seed that will grow into insecurity. When you repeat, "I am learning," you grow a tree of possibility. You are not just reacting to the world. You are actively shaping it. With every thought you reinforce there is a time to think and a time to be still. Just as seeds need both sun and darkness to grow, the mind needs both clarity and rest. Constant thinking without reflection is like overwatering a plant. It drowns. But too little awareness, and the seed dries up, forgotten. You must know when to speak to your thoughts and when to simply observe them. The right balance allows the most powerful seeds to take root deeply. Thoughts are not just words. They carry energy. A thought of gratitude brings lightness to the body. A thought of anger tightens the chest. If you do not believe that your thoughts matter, pay attention to how your body feels after dwelling on certain ideas. Your physical and emotional state responds to the seeds you carry. That response becomes habit. That habit becomes character. That character shapes destiny. Choose your thoughts as carefully as a gardener chooses his seeds. You would not plant thorns and expect roses. You would not plant poison and expect health. Yet many plant thoughts of blame, resentment, and fear, and expect a peaceful life to grow. What you allow to take root in your mind will eventually bear fruit in your reality. This is why discipline of thought is a form of self-respect. Thoughts are seeds, and the mind is always listening. It does not rest. It does not forget. It records what you repeat. The more attention you give a thought, the deeper it digs into your subconscious. With time, that thought becomes your automatic response. If you wish to change your responses, you must return to the source. Return to the seed. Emptiness is often misunderstood in the modern world. It is seen as a lack, a void, an absence of meaning or value. But in the ancient traditions, emptiness is not something to fear. It is something to cultivate. It is the space that allows awareness to emerge, the silence that reveals truth, the openness that invites clarity. Emptiness is not a problem to be solved. It is a presence to be experienced. When you remove distractions, when you quiet the noise, what remains is not nothing. What remains is pure potential. In that still space, where there is no rushing to be someone, no striving to do something, you meet your original self. The one before opinions, before ambition, before identity. That self does not need to be explained. It simply is. And in that isness, there is strength beyond what the thinking mind can measure. To the untrained mind, emptiness feels uncomfortable. It threatens the ego, which thrives on noise and narrative. The ego says, "Fill the silence, prove your worth, stay busy, don't stop." But in the temple of silence, the ego has no power. It fades like mist in the morning sun. In emptiness, you are not defined by what you possess or produce. You are held by something deeper, more constant, more true. Emptiness is not blankness. It is presence without interference. It is the open sky before the storm, the ocean before the wave. In that openness, you can see clearly. You begin to notice how many of your thoughts are just echoes of the past or reactions to fear. You begin to feel how much energy you lose trying to hold on to what no longer serves you. Emptiness teaches that letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom in meditation. You are not chasing thoughts. You are returning to emptiness. You are not trying to become better. You are remembering what has always been within. This emptiness is not lonely. It is peaceful. It is not empty of meaning. It is full of stillness. In that stillness, you do not need to search for answers. The answers find you not in words, but in knowing. Not in logic, but in truth that cannot be spoken. A cup must be empty to be useful. A room must have space to be lived in. The mind must have emptiness to perceive. If it is cluttered with opinions, judgments, desires, there is no room for wisdom to enter. Emptiness is the invitation. It says, "Come with nothing, and you will find everything." It is not the absence of thought, but the freedom from being ruled by thought. That freedom is not cold. It is warm with awareness. The greatest insights come not when the mind is working, but when it is still. In stillness, the surface settles. The water becomes clear. You see through the layers. You realize that much of what you thought was urgent is simply noise. You realize that beneath all striving is a quiet essence that needs nothing to prove its worth. This realization cannot be forced. It arises naturally when you allow emptiness to be enough. Emptiness is the ground from which creativity, intuition, and wisdom grow. It is the space where you reconnect with nature, with breath, with presence. It is not an escape from life. It is a return to life. In that return, you begin to live not from pressure, but from purpose, not from reaction, but from rhythm, not from fear, but from peace. Right thinking does not come from force, from urgency, or from the need to win. It emerges from a state of balance. When the mind is in harmony, clarity flows without struggle. It is like a well-tuned instrument. The sound is effortless, natural, and beautiful. But when the mind is pulled too far in any direction, too fast, too anxious, too rigid, it loses its center, and in that imbalance, thinking becomes distorted. Harmony in thought means that there is no inner war. You are not pulled between fear and desire, between what you know and what you pretend. Instead, your inner world is aligned with your outer actions. What you believe, what you say, and what you do are in agreement. In that alignment, right thinking becomes simple because it is no longer in conflict with itself. There is a quiet strength in this unity. Right thinking respects the rhythm of nature. It knows when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen. Just as the seasons do not rush, the mind in harmony does not force solutions. It allows time to reveal what is needed. It does not panic in uncertainty. It remains grounded. The right thought often arrives in stillness, not in noise, and when it comes, it fits. Not because it is clever, but because it is true. Harmony is not passivity. It is not doing nothing. It is doing the right thing at the right time with the right intention. It is movement with awareness, speech with purpose, effort with presence. When your thoughts are in harmony, they do not deplete you, they energize you. They point you toward the path that brings peace, not just for you, but for those around you. This is why right thinking does not isolate. It connects. An imbalanced mind sees only extremes. It says all or nothing, success or failure, right or wrong. But a harmonious mind sees the in-between. It recognizes nuance. It allows space for growth, for change, for compassion. It does not rush to judgment. It asks questions. It stays curious. In this space, new possibilities arise, not because you fight harder, but because you stop resisting what already is. Harmony in thinking also means harmony with your environment. The people you surround yourself with, the words you consume, the places you spend time in all influence the quality of your thoughts. If you feed your mind conflict, you will think in conflict. If you surround yourself with calm, clarity, and honesty, those qualities will begin to reflect in your thinking. You become a mirror of what you allow. Right thinking is humble. It does not insist on being right. It listens, it learns, it adapts. It understands that wisdom is not about having all the answers. It is about asking better questions. A harmonious mind does not try to dominate. It tries to understand. It does not try to impress. It tries to align. This quiet strength creates trust within yourself and with others. To think in harmony is to live in rhythm with life itself. It means accepting what cannot be controlled and responding to what can with calm precision. It means not being shaken by every emotion, not reacting to every distraction, not clinging to every desire. It is choosing thoughts that build instead of destroy, thoughts that clarify instead of confuse, thoughts that free instead of bind. Freedom is not the absence of structure. It is the result of structure practiced with consistency. Many people mistake freedom for doing whatever they want, whenever they want, but that path often leads to chaos, not clarity. Real freedom comes when your mind has been trained to think with purpose. When your thoughts are disciplined, your actions no longer come from confusion, pressure, or fear. They come from a place of calm direction. The undisciplined mind reacts to everything. It is easily distracted, emotionally unstable, and constantly searching for escape. In this state, even the simplest decisions feel heavy. You are pulled by impulses instead of guided by intention. But when thought becomes disciplined, the mind stops chasing and begins to focus. This focus turns your energy into power. You start to act by design rather than default. Discipline of thought is not suppression. It is alignment. It means choosing thoughts that serve your purpose and letting go of the ones that drain you. It is training your mind to return to what matters again and again without needing external force. Just as a warrior trains their body until movement becomes instinct, the mind must be trained until clarity becomes natural. When thoughts are disciplined, hesitation disappears. You know what you must do, and you move without unnecessary conflict. This doesn't mean every choice is easy, but it means the noise inside you doesn't control you. You can feel fear and still take the step. You can face uncertainty and still hold your posture. That is the freedom that discipline brings. Not avoidance, but presence in every moment. Many believe that thinking too much is the problem, but the issue is not thinking. It is undirected thinking. The disciplined mind does not overthink because it knows where to focus. It filters distraction, removes exaggeration, and moves toward what is real. Instead of spinning stories, it asks better questions. Instead of reacting emotionally, it sees what is actually there. This grounded thinking leads to right action. Freedom of action does not mean everything will go your way. It means that no matter what happens, you are able to respond with strength and clarity. You are not held hostage by doubt or overwhelmed by complexity. You trust your training, and because your thoughts are organized and clear, your actions become sharp and effective. The more precise your thinking, the more powerful your steps. Discipline of thought also leads to emotional freedom. You no longer depend on motivation or moods to act. You act because it is necessary, because it aligns with your inner compass. In this way, the ups and downs of life do not shake your direction. You are not fighting yourself with every decision. You are not dragged by temptation or paralyzed by fear. Your thoughts no longer delay you. They carry you forward. This kind of discipline is not achieved overnight. It is built through practice, through watching your thoughts, questioning them, refining them. It is the daily work of replacing self-pity with responsibility, replacing distraction with focus, replacing weakness with courage. Over time, these inner choices become natural, and from this inner strength, your external freedom begins to grow. Thinking clearly is not a gift reserved for a few. It is a skill developed by many who choose to be aware. Just as the body strengthens through repeated movement, the mind sharpens through repeated reflection. You are not born with the ability to direct thought in disciplined ways. You build it slowly, through challenge, through observation, through correction. It is not talent that creates clarity. It is effort applied consistently over time. People often assume that some are naturally wise, naturally decisive, naturally calm. But in reality, those qualities are the outcome of inner training. They come from choosing to pause when others rush, choosing to observe instead of react, choosing to ask instead of assume. These choices may feel unnatural in the beginning, but over time they become instinct. Thinking, like martial practice, becomes precise because it is practiced deliberately. A wandering mind is not a broken mind. It is simply an untrained one. Without guidance, thought drifts toward comfort, toward fear, toward habit. It loops in familiar stories and resists anything unfamiliar. But training teaches the mind to return, to come back to the breath, to come back to the moment, to come back to truth. This return is not dramatic. It is simple, steady, and quiet. Each return strengthens the discipline. Training the mind means paying attention to your thoughts with honesty and patience. You begin to notice what kind of thoughts rise when you are tired, when you are challenged, when you are alone. You begin to see the patterns. You learn which thoughts serve you and which ones weaken you. You stop believing everything your mind says, and you start guiding it instead of being guided by it. The environment around you shapes your thinking habits. If you surround yourself with chaos, your thoughts will reflect chaos. If you spend your time in noise, silence will become unfamiliar. Part of training the mind is also training the space. The people you speak with, the ideas you engage, the content you consume, all of it feeds the mind. Training is not only what happens on the cushion, it is what happens every moment of your life. Consistency matters more than intensity. One moment of focus each day is more powerful than hours of scattered thinking. Like water carving stone, disciplined thought leaves a mark over time. You do not need to think perfectly. You need to return to thinking with awareness. Over and over you redirect. Over and over you refine. Slowly the fog clears. Slowly you begin to choose your thoughts. The way a craftsman chooses his tools to train the mind is to embrace repetition. The same lessons will appear again and again. The same triggers, the same doubts, the same distractions. But instead of being defeated by them, you begin to see them as training partners. Each moment of resistance is an opportunity to build strength. Each moment of confusion is a test of presence. You do not escape difficulty. You grow through it. When you treat thinking as training, you no longer expect ease. You expect effort. You no longer compare yourself to others. You compare yourself to who you were yesterday. The progress is quiet, often invisible, but deeply powerful. With each step, you become less reactive and more intentional. With each step, your thinking becomes not just clearer, but also lighter, freer, and more aligned with who you truly are.